Welcome to Whispers of the Web, where the hidden gems of the web come to life. Join us as we unravel the most fascinating tales, secrets, and discussions from across the web. Every whisper has a story. If you enjoy our journey through the whispers of the web, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the intrigue. Story number 1. No overtime, no problem. Been working at this job for some years when I got a new manager. A month or so into her working there, she came into my office and told me I wasn't allowed to work overtime anymore, and if I have any issues, we can discuss it. The way she said it sounded like she was expecting this to really hurt me. I sent an email to confirm the conversation we had, and her response basically said, "Correct, no more time theft." I didn't really like that accusation. I usually stayed a little late by 30 minutes at most to finish up projects. A lot of projects come in last minute, and other managers were thankful for my help. So I quit staying to finish projects, and wouldn't start a new one if there wasn't enough time. No real issues. But some projects started falling through the cracks. I let the other managers know my manager told me no more overtime, and I'm just following orders. Fast forward barely a month later. As I'm leaving for the day, she rushes to me asking if I can work on, you guessed it, a last-minute project. It's potentially worth millions. I explained how I've got plans and I'm not about to be a thief. Next day was too quiet. In the afternoon, I get a request to have a meeting with my manager and HR. Usually you get a written complaint beforehand, so I'm still a little off guard. I could at least be a little prepared. At the meeting, my manager reads off grievances like it's an intervention. She frames it like I have antisocial behavioral issues, insubordinate, and I don't go the extra mile. If you let her keep going, I wouldn't be surprised if I was somehow to blame for the company not reaching its goals. When she finally finished, she had to have started writing that the night before and into the next day. I asked if it's okay if I had my say. I pointed out a lot was just her opinion, and I'm overall well liked. I always do exactly what she says. However, my manager likes to constantly move projects around while I'm working on them, and I'm not allowed overtime. She denies ever saying this, so I forward the email to HR. My manager then starts backtracking, saying she didn't mean it permanently. HR takes me off the call a bit. When they come back, it's just HR, and I start by saying I'm not signing anything. They tell me, let's agree to disagree. This has been one big miscommunication, and they appreciate all the work I do. I asked to confirm if this was going to be held against me in any way, and they said no. They went on to say, if I can stay late sometimes, great, but it's also okay that I leave after my 8 hours. My manager later quit in less than a year. Story number 2. You really want me to take time and go home. Okay, you lose a client. So this is a funny story where I know I wasn't exactly in the right, but it was still malicious compliance. So I'm a software engineer, and I'm a gal. So as you can imagine, I'm always either the only, or one of very, very few non-males in the team. This malicious compliance is from a previous job of mine. I was the primary SWE, software engineer, on a project. One random Wednesday, yes, I remember the day of the week, we had a meeting scheduled with the client. This was a large company and the client was in a different country, so the meeting was scheduled virtually. Now, if you know anything about me, I'm a bit of a promiscuous gal, and I guess this day I was being a bit silly and wore a dress that was a teeny tiny bit too short. At lunch, I was told by my manager that someone had complained and I needed to go home and change. I knew I was wrong and immediately apologized, but I brought up the meeting I had coming up. Now, as per company policy, we could not take any company equipment home unless we were scheduled on call, or unless we had permission. I could not take this call from home without the company laptop. I needed to demo something, and I knew none of the other engineers on my team could manage the demo. Yes, they knew how it worked, but no one knew it as well as me, and they had to refer to manuals to do the demo and answer questions, which is not a great presentation for the client. So I offered 2 options. 1. I get to take the company laptop home for the night. 2. I sit in one of the conference rooms for the next hour and a half and then join the meeting from that room. I was told neither was an option. I either had to go home and then return after changing, or go home and join in the call via telephone and let a teammate present. I presented my arguments, and my manager then told me that I should change and come back. There's no way I was doing that. mainly because it would take too long. I made that clear. So he offered that I could take the next day off out of my unlimited medical leave if I came back because he knew how important the client was. I once again suggested I take the company laptop home. I had done it multiple times when I was on call, so it wasn't a trust issue. He said, "No, that's only when you cannot take a call from the office." I gave one more shot at explaining that even if I went home and left right away I would miss most of the call, but he did not care. He said he would take care of the call until I returned. I said okay and put in the next day off, along with an email confirming what we had discussed, and then headed home. I obviously was not in a rush. I got home, changed, and went back to the office. As soon as I left home, I started receiving frantic calls asking where I was. I explained that it would take me 45 minutes to reach the office if traffic allowed, and they should start the call. Bottom line, no one was prepared. Everyone freaked out and made a mess of the presentation. The client was unimpressed and did not move forward with any further projects. So yes, I messed up, but I was willing to make up for it. He did not listen to me and chose to dismiss my statements, so I did exactly what he wanted. Could I have stopped at a mall 5 minutes away and picked up leggings? Yes. Did I choose to follow his instructions by the letter? Yes. Edit. I cannot reply to so many comments, so thank you everyone for your comments. I want to clarify that the problem was not with my outfit being too short for the meeting. If the meeting had happened before the complaint reached my manager, I'd have gone home and taken the L on the half day. But the problem came because I had to attend the meeting and they had to enforce their punishment on me. I forgot to put the outcome. The manager did try to blame me, but I simply reminded him that I had told him about the issue and emailed him the discussion of our meeting. I had explicitly told him this would happen if he sent me home to change, but he said he would handle it. He wasn't that bad of a person to say that didn't happen, so he simply used that to make our lives harder about everyone being fully involved in all projects, which meant a lot more meetings and a lot less work getting done. So I quit not much longer, and I know multiple others did too because it was affecting bonuses too. Story number 3. Too busy to queue. Okay, enjoy your 40-minute wait. I worked security for a popular phone company in Dublin city centre. It's the flagship store, and it gets very busy. We have this one guy, I'll call Mark, mostly because it's his name. He is rude, entitled, and ignorant. He comes in one day when there's a queue of maybe 6 people and walks right past it. I call him, he stops, and I tell him to join the queue. He tells me he's too busy and needs to speak with someone. I'm about to approach him when the manager looks at me and gives me a reassuring nod. He's got this. So Mark walks straight to the manager, who is clearly doing some managerial stuff, and the manager tells him to wait. He's clearly busy. It's Ramadan, so the manager is fasting and in not a great mood. I'm waiting nearby because I can feel this is going to kick off because the manager is so hangry. And you can smell the food from the upstairs break room wafting down like the harbinger of tastiness and or hypoglycemic rage. I know the manager will probably kick off as bad as Mark will. I wait about 10 minutes, my eyes darting between the rest of the shop and the 2 would-be culprits, when I see the manager put his pen down and close the log book thingy he was working on. Still looking down, he takes a deep breath and looks up with a smile. Mark steps forward and the manager puts his hand up. "Not you, I'll serve the ones in the queue first," he says in his sternest but professional voice. "Fine," is all Mark can say, giving me a serious amount of side-eye. At this point the queue had grown to over 15 people. I had to move away from that side of the shop to keep an eye on everything else. Mark looks at me and I tell him again to join the queue. "No, I'm okay," is all he manages to get out. Fine then, wait outside the queue. Every time the manager finishes with a customer, Mark takes a step forward only to be rebuffed by a hand wave. The manager alternates between this and directly addressing the next customer to come to him. Mark won't go to the other member of staff because she has made an absolute show of him in public. Mark is a creep, and up until then was barely tolerated by staff. He knows better than to try her. So Mark waits, and waits. People come and go. Mark sighs loudly every time the queue grows. He mutters something every time the manager tells him to wait. 40 minutes go by and the queue is down to 1 person. The manager goes for a glass of water, and it's just me, Mark, the other staff member, and the customer. There's also a guy on the floor, but only 2 points of sale, so he's kinda irrelevant. Sorry, bro. He is fuming. His fat face is pure red and he is clenching his fists. I slowly walk near him and stand nearby. He knows to keep his mouth shut around me, so I watch him quietly burn in impotent rage like an incense cone. The customer leaves and he stomps to the staff member, who gives him a look and says, "What? This woman has negative time for him and less patience. She's a lovely woman and a great member of staff otherwise. This is just how crappy Mark is." Mark starts to blather on about an issue. The staff sits there for 5 minutes and lets him rant. It's vaguely offensive, but he knows better to insult the staff directly. When he finally finishes, she just tells him that's a contract issue and to ring the call center. Technically she could have helped, but didn't have to. Mark gets mad. He demands the manager. A staff member that was working the floor goes up, takes his sweet time, comes back down with a cup of tea for himself and the other staff member, sits down and tells Mark the manager is on lunch. Cue a bunch of insults and slurs, and I ask him to leave. He squares up to me. He doesn't even reach my chest. I struggle to keep a straight face as the staff starts giggling and he slinks out. Story number 4. Entitled Mother Tells My Mom to Handle Her Kids. I posted this in our /entitled parents, but someone commented that it counted as malicious compliance too, so I'm posting it here as well. My 17 female mom, 41 female, took me out to get makeup the other day for a friend whose birthday is coming up. We entered the store and all was going really well. I was checking out concealers while my mom was on the other side of the shop looking through various shades of lipsticks. Enter entitled mother, late 20s female, with her devil spawn. I say devil spawn because her kids were misbehaving wildly, and she didn't bother even once to tell them to stop or something. Not even a minor rebuke. I say devil spawn because that about sums these 2 kids up. They were running wild around the shop, throwing testers around, and being a general nuisance. My mom stepped in when the kids started poking their slimy little fingers into the lipstick testers. I get it, they're just testers, but gross. People are likely going to use those to decide whether they like the shade or not, and God knows where those fingers have been. Like one of them was legitimately picking his nose minutes ago. My mom, having 4 kids of her own, looked around to find their parent. Entitled mother was the only one in the shop besides us. My mom called out to her, and this is how the conversation went. "Mom, excuse me, are these kids yours?" I know, very obvious, but my mom is a very polite person, so it's not odd to me. Entitled mother: "Yeah. Mom, can you please tell them to stop touching the testers? They're not toys." Entitled mother: "If it's such a problem, why don't you handle them?" Oh boy. My mom left the shop for a few minutes, and signaled me to not follow her. She came back with 2 buff security guards in tow. The kids were still poking their fingers in the testers. The guards walked up to the kids, and in the deepest baritone ever, one asked, "Excuse me, what are you doing?" The kids looked terrified and cued the waterworks. Entitled mother immediately stormed over and began reprimanding the guards for scaring her poor little angels. She then saw my mom nearby. Entitled mother: "You did this." At this point she was practically hissing like a cat. "How dare you teach me how to parent?" Mom, in an eerie monotone: "You told me to handle them, hence I handled them." She screamed more obscenities at my mom, the guards, anything around really, but the guards weren't having it and told her to leave. She created quite a scene, but thank everything that is holy she left. My mom had quite the story to tell at dinner, a rather comedic encounter with an entitled parent. Story number 5. Want me to not worry? Okay. So my dad, when I was younger, always worried about money, but if I did, he would get mad. So one day, we were at Jason's Deli. I asked him, "Hey Dad, what do you think is the cheapest thing on the menu?" And he yelled at me telling me not to worry. Okay Dad. I proceeded to buy the most expensive sandwich there. A $15 New York Yankee sandwich and a large side of fries. I don't eat fries a lot of the time. He was not happy, but stopped complaining about being broke or me worrying about money. Edit. Sorry, I fixed the punctuation. I'm not used to typing. Also, the restaurant was important because it was known for its expensive food. I can't spell and I'm on mobile, so please stop pointing out mistakes in my writing. Thank you for joining us for today's journey through the whispers of the web. Share your thoughts and suggestions for our next adventure. If you're not yet a part of our whispering community, click the subscribe button and click the bell for notifications to never miss out on another story. Join us next time as we uncover another enthralling tale from the web. Until our next whisper.